I'm going to show you how to shuck an oyster. I've got two different kinds here. We have a Pen Cove Select and a Cushy, and they're basically the same technique to shuck them, but I want to show you on two different oysters. First thing that's important to know is that you really want to be safe. So you want to have a towel or at least a glove on your hand, or if not a glove, you want to have a towel to protect yourself. There's two sides of the oyster. There's this front lip part, which is you can shuck an oyster that way, but I think it's a little bit more difficult. And then there's the hinge, which is located right back here, and that's where I'm going to teach you how to shuck an oyster today. So what I do is take the oyster, you're going to secure it with a towel, protect your hand. I've got two different kinds of shuckers here. One that's got a blunt tip, which is very easy to use for beginners, and this one has a very sharp tip. Both are good. This one's a little bit, I'd say a little bit more dangerous, so maybe if you're not experienced, I would start with this one. I'm going to take the shucker, we're going to locate the hinge, we're going to kind of twist. I'm not using a ton of force here, and once it's kind of stuck into the oyster like that, I know that I'm in the right place. I'm going to put it down and I'm going to keep kind of twisting. A good sign that you're fully in is if you see a little bit of the oyster liquor coming out. That way you know you've broken the seal of the oyster. Once I'm in like that, I just turn to the right. And it's a simple twisting motion. You can see that the oyster shucker is now in sideways. And that's a great way to know that you're in. You can see a little bit of that liquor dropping off. Another point is you always want to put the oyster down with the cup side down. It's holding the liquor, and that stuff is really wonderful, and you don't want to lose any of that as possible. All right, so once you have it open sideways, you can kind of see that we've opened the oyster completely. There's an adductor muscle that's right here, and I'm going to take my shucker, and I'm going to slide it over the top of the shell without puncturing, hopefully, the oyster. That's going to take the lid off here, top shell. At this point, there's another muscle connecting on the bottom. You can see it right under there. I'm going to take the oyster knife, put my thumb on the side, and scrape along the shell, and that's going to release it. There's nothing worse than being in an oyster bar and then going to tip an oyster back and it stays in the shell. You want to make sure that it's moving around. Some people like to flip it over to see the other side. It's a little bit prettier if you do that. You see all that beautiful liquor floating around in there? That's delicious. I want to take my finger and just scrape through here and get off any little bits of shell. That's another thing you want to make sure. You don't want to give someone an oyster that has little tiny bits of shell in it. And that's it. It's a shucked oyster. It's gorgeous. Now I'm going to shuck the Cushy oyster. Same thing. I'm going to locate the hinge with the shucker, and once it sticks in there and I see a little bit of liquor come out the side, I know that we're in. I'm going to wiggle it in without a lot of force, and then I'm just going to turn my wrist, and you can hear that kind of pop, and you see a little bit more liquor pooling, and now I know I'm completely in the oyster. I'm going to turn the shucker sideways, and skimming along the top of the shell, I'm going to clear off that adductor muscle, which is right in the back here. You see where it's located, and that's going to free it up. At this point, I'm going to clean off my knife, clean off any shell that might be sticking on the oyster, or any little stray bits. And I'm also going to take the knife and I'm going to shuck the bottom part where it attaches to the shell. You can kind of see that you've done that by flipping it over. It's also a very pretty look. Try not to get too much of the liquor out. There you go, beautiful Cushy.